Hi everyone, this is Brittany from By Brittany Goldwyn. I make videos about projects and plants, and today we have a plant care video for you. I am telling you all about the gorgeous Philodendron giganteum, which obviously gets its name from how giant it is. Mine I've had for probably about 5 years now. I will throw up a picture of what it looked like when I first got it. I did order this one online. It shipped beautifully and it has grown like a total weed, even though I have broken this plant apart and split it up a couple times over the years for spring repotting. So let's talk a little bit about its care. So first let's talk about lighting. Like most philodendrons, these like bright indirect light. I have it here in my sunroom. Behind me is north facing light, but it gets lots of light from the windows across from it and beside it, south and east. Yeah. It gets a lot of light from these two windows, bright indirect light, because it is a little bit farther away from the window. I haven't dealt with any scorching issues with this plant at all. In our previous home, and before we had the sunroom, I actually had this out on our patio, which was covered by a top deck, so it only got a little bit of direct sunlight through the upper deck slats. And then I had it in a room with very similar lighting conditions to this, maybe a little bit less, and it still did great. Yeah, so definitely not a low light plant and not a direct light plant, but pretty flexible in the span of bright indirect light between low and high light. This one right here is actually way overdue for repotting. I have actually waited for this video so I could repot it on video for the video so you can see the whole process. You can see the soil, you can see how I water it. It is March, tomorrow's April in Maryland where I'm filming this, which means we are headed into spring. I typically try to wait to repot all of my plants until the spring. Sometimes I break that rule, but for this one, I definitely wanted to wait since it is so large. I wanted to be able to throw down a tarp and do it and then clean it off and water it outside. I would say this one I've repotted. This will probably be the second time I've repotted it. So I put it in a rather large pot about a year after I got it, and that was the pot that it's in right now, which I'll show you here. I can lift it up and show you. This is actually a really large white pot, but I still have it in the smaller plastic nursery pot inside of this so I can easily take it out to water. I don't always take it out to water, but if it's nice out, I'll take it out on the patio to water with the hose, or I'll throw it outside when it's raining sometimes, or take it to the shower. Because these huge leaves here, they look a lot like elephant ear leaves. A lot of people think this is an elephant ear plant. It's not, but it's easy to mistake them for one another because the leaves are, as I mentioned, giant. And they look a lot like elephant ear leaves in terms of the shape. In my experience, elephant ear plants are a little bit more upright, like this, or they can have like a hanging look like this, but it's more like the growth pattern on this philodendron is more climbing or drapey, whereas elephant ears typically tend to have more of a spread or be upright. So you're probably wondering, is this plant pet safe? It is not. Philodendrons are not pet safe. This little weirdo is not really into munching these types of plants. There are some types of plants that I cannot have with him in the house, like ferns or really leafy things, but he's getting old and he's boring and he mostly sleeps all day, so he does not touch this plant. But if you do have an animal that is a bit of a muncher, I would not recommend philodendrons in general, especially this one because it's so large you can't really have it hanging. You'll have to have it as a floor plant, which means that animals can get to it more readily, but like I said, this little dork leaves mine alone. So I want to talk a little bit about climbing and how I have it here. You'll see a little bit more when I repot it. It's kind of leaning a little bit because again, it is due for repotting, but it's also growing this way. I try to rotate the plant like about halfway every couple months. I didn't really do that this winter as much because you will notice, since it is getting light sources mostly from over here, it tends to grow this way and not this way. So I try to rotate it as much as I can remember to, so it has even circular growth. And then when I repot it, I'll show you how I tie it up to this moss pole to encourage it to grow up, because it is a climber, a little bit more than I encourage it to grow out, though even when it grows up, it tends to grow out as well, because as you can see, the stems on these are pretty long and the leaves are so large that they kind of weigh them out and down as well. Another thing I want to address with this plant is, since the leaves are so large, they are really dust magnets. So I'll show you a close-up shot here of what some of these super dirty leaves look like at the end of winter. Dust, cat hair, whatever gets on them. When I water this plant, I like to water really deeply, as I mentioned. And when I do that, I can rinse off all of the foliage tops and bottoms, which helps to keep the leaves clean. That's a way better method of keeping the leaves clean than using some sort of leaf shine product, which I don't recommend using the over-the-counter leaf shine products. You want to make sure that the leaves can breathe when the plant is growing, right? This is a living being, so we don't want to coat the leaves with anything to keep them clean and give them an artificial shine. They show themselves off plenty even when they're dirty, so just rinsing them off can make them look really, really beautiful and shiny. One of the things I've noticed with a couple philodendrons I've had actually is a bit of like sappy residue along the stems. At first I saw this on a philodendron silver sword and I was worried that it was some sort of pest infestation because the sign of some types of pests can be a sweet, sappy looking residue. And it's never been the case with this plant. I actually have not figured out exactly what it is. So if you know what it is, please let me know in the comments. But monitor your plant. If you notice these little like clear, kind of sticky residue up along your stems, but you otherwise have no other signs of pests, I would say it's fine. My plant has had that for all of the years I've had the plant. And again, I've seen it on other philodendrons. So I would love to know what it is if you know what it is. It is not what happens when you overwater the plant. Typically, sometimes when I water this plant deeply, I will notice drops of water coming out of the edges of the leaves. This is called giganteum, I believe it's pronounced. And that's just when you give the plant more water than it needs, so it starts sweating it out. That, in my experience, is a different phenomenon than what the little sticky, clear blobs are that come up and down the stem sometimes. As far as temperature and humidity go, this one, in my experience, has done extremely well with all normal household temperature and humidity levels. I do not run a humidifier in this room because I am pretty lazy. So while it gets a lot of great light conditions and it stays warm year round because this is a 4-season sunroom, I'd say the coldest it gets in here in the middle of winter is like 60 degrees Fahrenheit. The growth will slow down when it gets a little cooler, but overall I've seen no signs of stress. And then I generally maintain the temperature in here no higher than about 78, 79 if it's like a super hot spell and I'm running the air conditioning in here during peak summer. Humidity, I occasionally will mist the plant because I like to mist the aerial roots and the stems just to give them a bit of extra moisture. And sometimes it's just fun to mist the leaves. This doesn't really increase humidity. It's typically only a very, very temporary increase in ambient moisture around the plant, but it's just fun sometimes. And I know a lot of people like to do it. And it also can help you wipe down the leaves if you do not feel like dragging the plant all the way to the shower or the patio to rinse down the leaves when you're watering it. So that is all about the Philodendron giganteum. If you're new to this plant and you're interested in adding it to your collection, I hope this video gives you some confidence that you can take care of it in your home. Like I said, this one has been a pretty easy plant for me. I don't really cater to it too much. I just give it plenty of bright indirect light and I water it when the soil has almost dried out completely. It has grown like an absolute weed for me and it has given me all the drama of having an elephant ear indoor without actually having the drama of caring for an elephant ear indoors. So if you've cared for this plant, let me know in the comments. If you have any other tips, let me know if you have questions. And until then, happy planting.